Yo, what is going on, guys? Cryptic TMG back with a brand new video. Today I'm going to be focusing on which out of the LMGT3 cars is the best one for you to drive on LMU, and it's going to depend a little bit, of course, on your driving style. Also, I'm not just going to focus on fix setup. I'm going to run through the pros and the cons of each car and maybe some things you might not have known before today. So anyway, let's get stuck into the video. So starting off with the Aston, very nice car to drive. A lot of the time people only use fix, so they don't know the full benefits of the Aston Martin yet. But in open setup, this car probably is overall the best car on the game in terms of it's very, very versatile, pretty good in the wet, has fantastic tire wear, which the only downside to that is it takes quite long to heat up its tires if you're not using tire warmers, if you are in a race that is open setup. But you know, it's pretty much good at everything, but particularly race pace is the strength for the Aston Martin. And if you do find yourself in an endurance race or a longer race, and if the temperature is, you know, sort of above the 30s, 25 to 30s, this car does start to excel. Now, when there is cooler temperatures like sort of 17, 18, then you're going to struggle to get tire temp, particularly in qualifying. So you may not qualify where the car's true potential is. But in the race, particularly longer races or hour-long race where you're not changing tires, towards the second half of the race, the Aston Martin really does come good. So it is overall probably, I would say, the strongest package in terms of the LMGT3s, which a lot of people get confused and think it's either like a BMW or a Ford. Trust me, the Aston Martin is the car to be, but you know, you have to be pretty solid to extract the speed out of it. Now moving on to the BMW M4, one of the fan favorites. The BMW is super consistent to drive in terms of it just has a nice feeling, and it's not that easy to overdo it in this car. So it's pretty stable. You can sort of slide the car a bit too much when you start going down too far on the slip angles and putting too much rake on the car, but again, it's a very solid car. Its main strength though is the cooler conditions, because it can heat up its tires very quickly. Similar to another car, similar to the Ferrari, in cooler temperatures it does tend to heat up the tires very well, and that's what makes it so good in quali, because 9 times out of 10 you get the temperature in your tires very quickly, particularly without the tire warmers, so you can get up to speed very quickly. A lot of the time qualifying sessions are not that long. If you're doing sort of like open championship races, you might get like 10 minutes or 8 minutes or whatever it is, so you don't have that long a lot of the time. So the BMW definitely tends to be one of those cars that you see people able to bang out quick lap times in. Of course, in the race, if the temperature is hotter, then you are going to punish the tires that little bit more. But I do believe with a solid setup, the balance is good enough to where you can sort of carry your pace out throughout a whole stint. But definitely, I would say its weaknesses that maybe doesn't have the same straight line speed capabilities as some of the other cars. Particularly when you do fix setup, a lot of the time is you're actually running about 1 or 2 wing in a BMW, so you're very close to minimum anyway. So a lot of the time when you go into open setup, there isn't actually that much more lap time that can be found by, you know, going lower wing and stuff like that. So again, very good car, very solid. I would say it's definitely top 4 selected for sure, but I would still put the Aston Martin ahead of the BMW. Moving on to the Corvette, which has so much hidden potential, but it is very hard to extract it. You have to be, I would say, one of the elites to extract the full potential of the Corvette, because this is a very fast car, don't get me wrong, but it is tricky, and it does come with its downsides. Very fast, shorter gears, you know, allows you to get out of the corner as well, but it suffers a lot in 6th gear. Its 6th gear is not good. It doesn't have the best straight line speed, but if you can handle it, it is a very, very fast car around certain circuits. If you guys have seen, even Prena was doing the fixed setup races at Spa, and the fastest lap time at Spa is actually a 19.1, and that is set in the Corvette, you know, so it tells you that there is inherent pace in the car. It's just not that easy to extract. Does tend to heat up his tires a lot during longer races. I have experienced that. It might have been down to not the best setups, but I feel like this is a car that you will have to put in a lot of work to get the full potential out of, but the potential is there. Definitely, the potential is definitely there. It's just not very easy to find. So it's hard to rank the Corvette because, you know, really fast guys can get some amazing times out of the car, but at the same time, for the average person, I think that they would struggle to, you know, extract lap time. But, you know, if you're willing to put the time in, it's definitely a car that can shock people, you know, if someone does stumble across a great setup and also someone who's very quick. So yeah, one of those ones you have to think about. But for the average player, I would probably say, you know, don't jump in the Corvette yet. It's probably for the more experienced guys. Moving on to the Ferrari 296. Now, this is a car that is a demon, particularly in qualifying. And again, it's one of those cars that in cooler conditions, it really excels. You can get amazing lap times in the Ferrari. It can be a little tricky, a little bit edgy to drive, but it has a very nice front end, and you know, it is a solid car. I, for me, definitely put it up in the top 4 with a good setup. It is one of the cars that can excel, particularly at certain circuits. It's always in and around, you know, the top 3. If you're looking at a car that can perform at a very high level, I wouldn't say it's particularly weak anywhere. It's pretty much strong everywhere. It's just that, again, like the Corvette, probably not as easy to extract the time. So probably not for the beginner, not for the newbies. It's going to be a lot more difficult, but with a good setup, you definitely can extract insane lap times out of this car. Over 1 lap is probably one of the fastest cars in the game. During the race, you probably have to have a different race setup because you need to look after the tires. And again, you know, when we're talking about race distances, if you're talking about longer races, hour-long races, or longer than that, further endurance races, it's not so much about the ultimate speed, and it's more about how much you can look after the tires and look after the car, which is more important, which is kind of what we see in F1 today, right? With, you know, we've seen, you know, Mercedes getting pole positions, even Ferrari got a pole position in the sprint, Red Bull getting pole positions, but at the end of the day, in the race, it comes down to tire wear, and because the McLarens don't seem to have any tire wear, that's why it excels so much. And that is sort of the trick to LMU at the moment, is if you can get those tires to last throughout a race and your drop off in speed is not as great, then you're going to have a pretty solid race, man. So Ferrari is a car that can always qualify near the front. It just takes a very good setup to keep it there. So yeah, I'll definitely say it's one of those cars that if you want to get into, you definitely have to grind. Sort of like the Corvette, you have to grind the setups, and you have to know your stuff if you would really want to survive at the front during a longer race in the Ferrari. Now moving on to the Ford Mustang. Again, this is a car that is extremely comfortable to drive. I would definitely say if you're new to the game, probably jump in the Mustang. It's very robust, and it's just easier to get to grips with. Now, if you're talking about getting lap time out of the car, again, of course, just like all the cars, you need to do some decent setup work, but off the back, very good on the straights, of course. The issue with the Mustang is it does take a while also to heat the tires up. Maybe not as long as the Aston, but it does actually take a while to get the tires up to temperature. So sometimes in quali, if the temps are a little bit low, it's actually quite hard to generate the lap time straight away. It might take you 3 or 4 laps to get where you need to go. But again, it's a car with a lot of potential, but of course you have to know what you're doing in setup to get the maximum out of the car, because it can feel a little understeery sometimes. There's been times where I've put the TC slip down to 0 and the car still is you know, still doesn't turn as well as like a Ferrari or something like that. So that's just some of the things that are inherently built into the Mustang. And again, you have to sort of balance out, you know, the ride heights and not having your front splitter scraping too much on the ground, which is going to cost you time if you've got the front of the car scraping on the ground too much. So have to be wary. But again, a very good car. For me, probably the one that I feel like most newbies should jump into, because it's pretty easy on traction, it's pretty stable, and it's a hard car to really have a big moment with. Unlike if you're driving a Ferrari or Corvette, very twitchy, very easy to have a big moment with. So, you know, for me, this or the BMW, I would say if you're new to the game, should probably be the first cars you jump into, unless you are just an experienced sim racer and you just got it like that. All right, but now the McLaren 720S Evo, and yo, this car is a tricky one because there is some people that are fast in this car. After the last update, I personally feel like it's taken a step back. It used to be great on tires. That was its biggest strength. It was quick down the straight, great on tires. For like a mid-engine car, it was very understeery, which made it extremely stable. So it almost felt like you were driving a front-engine car, but it was super stable. And it did have great straight line speed. Now, I haven't really driven the McLaren that much recently, but last time I did, it was extremely understeery, and it just didn't quite have that bite in it, that nimbleness. But I would say its greatest strength is probably in the wet, because the traction on the McLaren is just easy. It's so easy to get your foot down, you know, so you can put your TC down quite far and still get away with just putting your foot down in the McLaren. So in the wet, it makes a big difference in the way you can get on the power. So the McLaren's always been super strong in the wet. It should technically still have great tire wear. I just feel like they did nerf it in the last update, and I'm not quite sure where it is in the pecking order, particularly in open setup, because no one's really picking it anymore. So it's a difficult one to know, but it was a car that had a lot of potential before, and it was fast, but they have slowed it down since the last update. So I'm not sure exactly where it was. Its greatest strength was always the stability, being able to get your foot down on the power quickly. It used to have great tire wear, like definitely up there with the Aston in terms of tire wear, but we don't know exactly where it is. So for now, I would kind of say probably not the best. So definitely stick more towards the BMW and Fords if you are new. Moving on to the Porsche 992, and again, this is a car that before the last patch, it was an absolute animal, and still to this day, I feel like at Brazil, Interlagos, this car is insane. But it has tire issues in terms of overheating tires a lot. So it's definitely a car that over one lap can do insane lap times. Still a very viable option if we're just talking about quali, and maybe if we're talking about the shorter races, 20 minutes and stuff like that. But for longer endurance races, man, you're going to need to know some serious setup stuff, because it feels nice to drive, but the tire heat and tire wear can affect your race massively for longer races, and it just gets trickier and trickier to drive as the stint goes on. So very difficult to know you know, where to place this car, because again, it has the potential, but who wants to be battling against tire wear? Because you're already in a race, already having to race your competitors, and you don't want to be sitting there thinking, yo, are my tires gonna go off? Are they gonna last? After 25-30 minutes, your tires are nowhere, then you just end up dropping backwards through the field. So I've seen a noticeable decline in the amount of people that are jumping in the Porsche nowadays. It seems as if no one's going near it at the moment. So I do actually hope the next update, which is now coming out on June 10th, I believe, I do hope they do sort of get it back in the mix, maybe buff the McLaren a little as well, so we can get more options. Of course, June 10th, we should be getting the Lambo and the Lexus as well. So it'll be interesting to see where they fall into the pecking order. But as it goes at the moment, I would recommend new players of the game, probably jump in the BMW or the Ford. That's going to be your comfortable space. And then when you're ready to branch out, I would say try Aston, and then maybe a Ferrari. And then if you're brave enough, then you can sort of jump in the Corvette. But yeah, that for me at the moment, I would say those are my picks. Definitely Aston Martin #1 in terms of race pace. If we're talking open setups, Aston Martin's #1. #2, I would probably say #2 is hard. #2 for me is probably between the Mustang, Ferrari, and BMW, because they all are strong, and a lot of it does depend on weather conditions. So the cooler the temperatures are, the faster the BMW and the Ferrari will be. And if it's vice versa, then I feel like it more favors the Ford. So it's very, very interesting at the moment, but weather conditions do play a lot into it. But I hope you guys did enjoy the video. I hope my advice will help you guys out. Cryptic TMG, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell to catch my videos first, and peace.
Old school and retro, grab the beat by the throat, don't let go. So deep, full of G, stop the beat and start it again. I'll go from the intro. Skip flow, makes the girls dip low. Content keeps hot free on tiptoes. Flow sweet, second name should be Vimto. I'm an Audi, Wiley, a Metro. Holla my line for booking or info. Deep voice to your girl to an info. And she said she don't give a head, but that's just the life.